Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are looking at the recent escalation in naval maneuvers. A Russian Kilo-class submarine was caught moving through UK waters, and what happened next triggered one of the most focused naval responses we've seen in years. For 3 tense days, the Royal Navy shadowed the vessel, while NATO assets moved into position. But the real question is, why now, and what does this encounter reveal about rising tensions beneath the surface? If you want clearer insight into this standoff and what it means for global security, you're in the right place. Before we dive deeper, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It genuinely helps us out. And I want to hear from you. Was this a routine operation or a warning sign of something bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. This is a conversation, and your perspective matters. Let's get into it. Okay, so let's unpack this. What exactly happened during those 3 tense days?
Well, this incident, it really wasn't isolated. It's a very specific and I'd say very visible example of this massive strategic shift that's happening just beneath the waves.
The strategic shift in the North Atlantic.
Exactly. What you saw was, a tactical game of cat and mouse in one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. But the real story is the motivation behind it and the huge response it triggered.
So let's get into the specifics of that transit. We're talking about the Kilo-class submarine, the Krasnodar.
And it wasn't alone. It was accompanied by a tugboat, the Alte.
Right. And their route was, well, pretty bold. Sailing west from the North Sea, straight through the Strait of Dover, and into the English Channel.
And that's the first real clue here, the choice of vessel.
The Kilo-class. It's a diesel-electric boat, not nuclear. Why is that so significant in a place like the Channel?
Because it's exceptionally quiet. NATO has a nickname for it. The black hole. In shallow coastal waters, it can be even stealthier than a nuclear sub, which has a constant noise signature.
So it's the perfect tool for, what, testing defenses? Close-in reconnaissance?
Both. By transiting on the surface, they're being very visible, almost flaunting their passage. But they're also showcasing a platform that is built for stealth if they choose to use it. They're forcing a reaction.
And they certainly got one. What was the UK's immediate response?
The Royal Navy sent out the RFA Tide Surge. And it's important to note that's a support ship from the Royal Fleet Auxiliary.
So not a high-end warship, which might have seemed like an overreaction.
Precisely. But the Tide Surge is a large vessel, and deploying it signals a sustained tracking capability. It was a commitment to shadow them for the full 3 days.
And I saw that the Tide Surge had a very important asset on its deck.
Ah, yes, the Merlin helicopter.
The sources said it stayed on board, but its presence alone is symbolic, right?
It's more than symbolic. That Merlin is a dedicated anti-submarine warfare helicopter, an ASW asset.
So even on the deck?
Even on the deck, it sent a clear signal. We are ready for this to escalate from observation to active hunting if you dive and try to disappear. It's a non-negotiable message of readiness.
And this wasn't just a UK operation, was it?
Not at all. And this is key. Once the submarine neared the island of Ushant off the coast of France, the monitoring duties were handed over.
Smoothly to a NATO ally.
A seamless handover. It demonstrates that NATO's surveillance grid is active, it's integrated, and there are no gaps for a sub like that to just slip through.
There's a quote from Captain James Allen, the CO of the Tide Surge, that really captures the feeling. He said, "There is nothing like a Russian submarine to focus the mind for any mariner."
It perfectly captures that professional intensity. And that intensity comes from necessity. Lieutenant Commander David Emery said as much, that maintaining an overt presence is vital for national security.
So the visibility of the response is part of the strategy itself.
Absolutely. It's a message back to Moscow. We see you, and every move you make will get a coordinated, alliance-backed response.
Okay, so that's the incident itself, a tactical chess move. But you said this isn't isolated. It feels like part of an accelerating pattern.
It's not just a feeling. We have the numbers.
What does the data show?
The Ministry of Defense has stated pretty publicly that Russian naval activity around UK waters is up by 30%.
30%?
In just the last 2 years. That number changes everything. It reframes the Krasnodar incident from a one-off event to just one piece of a much larger calculated push.
Wow. 30% is a huge increase. And is that mostly surface ships, or are we seeing a similar rise in submarine activity?
It's across the board. But the strategic focus and the real concern is on the submarines. They represent the highest, most deniable threat.
And we have other recent examples of this, right? This pattern of intercepts.
Oh, yes. This is the new normal. Just last July, HMS Mersey, a patrol ship, was sent out with a Wildcat helicopter and a Merlin aircraft to shadow another submarine, the Novorossiysk.
So a multi-asset response even then.
Definitely. And then again in November, HMS Severn intercepted a Russian corvette, the Stoichi, and its tanker as they came through the Dover Strait.
And again, a handover to a NATO ally off the coast of Brittany.
It's the same playbook every time. It shows that every major choke point is being watched constantly. The Krasnodar is just the latest chapter in a very busy couple of years.
So with this huge jump in Russian activity, what's the bigger NATO response? We see the UK's reaction, but what's the wider strategic counter?
The alliance knows this is a systemic threat to the North Atlantic. So, for example, the UK has deployed its 3 Poseidon surveillance aircraft.
The new, very advanced ones.
State-of-the-art. And they've based them in Iceland.
Iceland. That's geographically critical, isn't it?
It's the perfect spot to monitor Russian assets moving from the Arctic into those vital North Atlantic sea lanes. It shows NATO is connecting the dots.
Which brings us to the core issue.
Yeah.
A 30% rise in activity, massive NATO investment. What are they actually targeting? What are the stakes here?
This is where we move from the tactical shadowing to the highest strategic implication. It's about defending critical infrastructure.
Like undersea infrastructure.
The undersea cables and pipelines that connect our economies and our digital world. They are positioning, they're gathering intelligence on these vital arteries.
And that concern is now driving major defense policy, isn't it?
It is. Defense Secretary John Healey just announced Atlantic Bastion.
A multi-million-pound high-tech naval force. And its purpose is specifically to protect these cables.
Exactly that. This isn't just a name. It's a focused initiative to protect these incredibly vulnerable targets. We're talking about using things like autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, to patrol cable routes.
So building a kind of a digital fence around the physical infrastructure.
That's a great way to put it, because the stakes are just immense.
Something like 97% of global internet traffic goes through these cables. Trillions in financial transactions every single day.
Precisely. They are the ultimate high-value target. And you see that reflected in diplomacy, too. The UK just signed the Luna House Defense Pact with Norway.
And that's also aimed at protecting undersea infrastructure.
Yes, because it's a shared vulnerability. Norway controls huge stretches of seabed with critical pipelines and data cables. This pact formalizes intelligence sharing and rapid response. It's a regional defense plan for the seabed.
But it begs the question, why this intense focus now? Are these submarine transits, like the Kilos, happening along known cable routes?
It's highly likely. These passages are almost certainly disguised reconnaissance. They're mapping the seabed, confirming the exact locations and vulnerabilities of the infrastructure. They're cataloging the systems that underpin Western security.
That makes it all feel much more immediate. And speaking of immediate threats, there was that incident with the spy ship Yantar. That took things to another level.
The Yantar incident was alarming. It showed a willingness to be confrontational, not just passive.
This is the ship Moscow calls an oceanographic research vessel.
Right, a research vessel that was spotted off the coast of Scotland.
And it aimed lasers at the RAF pilots who were tracking it.
Aiming lasers at pilots is profoundly reckless. It's a dangerous escalation, and it got a very sharp response from the British government.
What was that response?
It was a very public, very pointed warning. Healey's message was aimed directly at Putin. He said, and I'm quoting here, "We see you, we know what you're doing, and if the Yantar travels south this week, we are ready."
That is very direct language.
You reserve that kind of language for moments of imminent escalation.
So how did Moscow frame this? How do they respond to that accusation?
They pushed back hard. The Russian embassy in London accused the UK government of whipping up militaristic hysteria.
So they're saying the UK is overreacting.
Exactly. They claim the Yantar is just a peaceful research ship in international waters and that Britain is creating dangerous situations with its response.
So you have these two completely divergent narratives. On one side, NATO sees a calculated, dangerous pattern. On the other, Russia claims routine movements are being met with hysteria.
That's the core of the tension. And if we connect it all back, that Kilo-class submarine, its transit wasn't just a journey. It was a physical manifestation of that 30% increase in military pressure.
Pressure campaign.
One that's likely aimed at disrupting or at least mapping those critical undersea links. And it forces NATO into making these expensive public defensive moves like Atlantic Bastion and the Norway Pact. It's a whole chain of events.
The tension is clear above the waves in all the rhetoric. But with these huge investments in programs like Atlantic Bastion, it makes you wonder, how much of this new Cold War is actually playing out silently, far beneath the surface, where the true vulnerabilities really lie? That's something for you to consider.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode.